Okay, so about a week ago, I got to go see Dune Part 2 in theaters, in IMAX specifically, with a couple friends of mine, watching my friend Jose7. I tried to combine N7 and Jose into one person, but I watched it with a couple friends of mine, and I watched the first movie when it came out, which was. When was that? Was that 21? That sounds about right. I should probably double check that. I'm going to say about 2021. And I hadn't read the book at that time. But I enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed it quite thoroughly. I was like, before part two comes out, I want to read the book. Because I liked this a lot. Let me read the book, watch part two, and if I want to read the rest of the series, I will. If I don't, I don't. So in about, I don't remember when now, is it October or November? That a lot of that part of the last year kind of blends together for me. I did finally read the original Dune, and I loved it. I thought the book was fantastic. I will say, me personally, as much as I liked the story and as much as I liked the characters, I preferred just the world as a whole and the world building. I was like, this is like I give a shit about what's happening and I give a shit about what it's happening to. But just some of these little moments, like about Fremen culture, like the I was a friend of Janice, or how after Janice dies, Paul essentially inherits the guy's wife and his kids, and he's like, I don't know how I feel about this. Like, what do I do here? And I remember, like, he's very nervous when he has to tell the kids. He's like, are these kids going to grow up and want to hate me or something? And the kids do kind of disappear from the narrative. I remember really wanting to see, like, what would happen with them, like, how close they'd be to Paul. But the part I remember is, like, they go to a gathering and the kids are just standing very close to Paul, and he's like, I kind of feel like I have my own entourage. I mean, obviously he's not saying I have an entourage, not the term used. He's like, I have like an entourage right now. They're here because they want to be near me. They want to keep me safe. Even though I killed their father, I mean, it's like one's biological father, one's stepfather, they have accepted me as their new father because it's just part of the culture. Like, shit like that I always thought was super interesting. But, the movie really made me I felt like I appreciated the story more watching the movie. Not to say it's necessarily better handled, but I don't know. Maybe it was because of just how good the acting is. Because I thought, like, especially with from Timothy Chalamet, I just really felt it. I was getting super into it. Maybe it's because of just how beautiful it looks. Because Arrakis is beautiful. I mean, it's a shithole. Don't get me wrong, but I'm like, I just love looking at it, dude. Like, it's so grand and it's so big and it's so epic, and like every time like you get the I don't even know what the fuck I was trying to say there. That's just how much I liked the movie. So, what I want to do is go into, like, talk about the movie in terms of no spoilers, then mild, and to be fair, my no spoilers, I'm going to talk about the first film and, like, the first half of the book, assuming you are familiar with and watch it, so there's going to be spoilers for that. Mild spoilers will be just, like, here's some fun set pieces and some departures from the book without getting into, like, the ending. And then full spoilers, I'll talk about the climax, I'll talk about the ending, etc., etc. So, I mean, the first thing to say, I don't think I've officially said it yet, I fucking loved it. I had an absolute blast watching this movie. You know, it's not like watching No Way Home, where you're watching this and the crowd is really getting into it, like when Garfield shows up, when Toby shows up, and something like that. But it's a great... how do I want to say this? It's a great theater experience. Not because the crowd gets into it, but because it feels like this is the kind of movie that movies were made for. Like, just seeing Arrakis on the big screen. Like, the way characters talk and they act, you feel like you're watching something very grand and very important. I think the score is fantastic. And also, there are some moments, like, well, I'll talk about the climax more in a bit, but I love how when you get to the, like, final part of the climax, there is no music. Like, they know when to use the score and they know when not to use the score. I think that's so cool. Some of my favorite visuals in the movies, like this one specifically, it's been a while since I watched the first one, is the Harkonnens. Because the Harkonnens are very white. Like, I was watching the movie and I was like, did someone just, like, pour milk on, like, the entire... It's like, why is there a milk filter? It's so white. It's kind of weird. But it's very striking, especially when you compare it to Arrakis, which is brown and sandy, and it's just, like, it feels so hot and oppressive. And then you have this, like, cold, sterile, unfeeling white. I'm like, I'm not gonna lie, that's kind of really cool. And then I remember when I first saw Christopher Walken, and my brain first goes, oh, Ubi Do. I get to be in Do-oo-oon. It was like, why? Like, no disrespect to Christopher Walken. Why is Christopher Walken but I love Christopher Walken, so I'm happy to see him. And then when I see his fit, it's not like pure white. I think there was like some gold in there, but I was like, damn, he's also wearing just like a lot of white. And my brain, because I looked at the Harkonnens, I was like, this looks like milk. See Christopher Walken wearing white, I'm like, so he's dressed up like a fucking milk carton. Reminds me of a Ludacris song called, I believe, My Chick Bad. You know, my chick bad, my chick hood, my chick do shit that your chick wish she could. And there's this one bar. I don't remember the whole thing, but he's talking about his chick's fit. And how he's like, all white pants, all white belt, shoddy looking like milk. And I remembered that while I'm watching the movie. I'm like trying not to laugh. But my brain's just like, dude, he's dressed up like milk. This is amazing. But genuinely, like, I think the costumes look really good. Like I said, I really like how the Harkonnen planet looks. One thing, this is a bit of a departure from the book, but I feel like I can say it and maybe kind of just still the no spoilers in general terms, is the way Jessica is written. I'll definitely talk about it a bit more of this on like the mild spoilers. The book, for me, like, Jessica is my favorite character. I've only read the first book. Jessica is my favorite character in that book. The reason I love Jessica is you get the duality of her. Duality. I don't know why I said like duality. That was weird. I didn't like the way my cheeks felt when I said that. You get the side of her that's the Bene Gesserit, the witch, the one who's like, my son is going to be the Messiah. Whether it was foretold or not, I'm going to make him the Messiah. And you see, like, the mind game she's able to pull. Like, there's this one scene where she's saying, not everyone believes in him. There's a lot of people who don't. And I'm gonna, like, I have to convert them. Let me start with the weaker ones. The ones who are afraid. It just zooms in on her Dune blue eyes. I'm like, that's so creepy. Like, if I didn't know better, like, if I had just walked into the movie, like, if it was on TV and I saw that, I would think, oh, that's the main antagonist. Or like, no, that's one of our heroes. That's the main character's mom. Really? Just, like, the way it's acted and it's written and it's shot, and it's like, I can feel how vicious she is. And that's one of the things I love about Jessica. I was like, they nailed that part absolutely. The part for me that I feel is just a little bit missing is Jessica's humanity and it's her vulnerability. Like, throughout the book, especially like in this part of the book, you feel how weird the relationship with Paul is. Like, there's these moments where it's, despite everything going on in the world and the issues they have with each other, they are still mother and son. They mean the world to each other. There's also those moments where she's like, I'm scared of him. Part of that is, I'm scared of the power he wields and the influence he wields. Like, as his mother, I fear for what's going to happen to my boy or what my boy could do. There's also moments where she's like, if he, like, he's mad at me, and I get it. If he wanted me gone, I wouldn't be here anymore. And I feel like I have to be very delicate in how I handle my son now. And I find that stuff really interesting. Like, I'll talk a bit more about some of her vulnerabilities in a bit. Pin in that. Oh, is there anything else I really wanted to say? I think that's kind of it from No Spoilers. Just like, I think the acting is very good. I think it looks great. I think it sounds great. It made me want to eat some Oreos, but like, the movie is fantastic. I would recommend you go see it, especially if you've read the book, especially if you watch the first film. If you do go see it, definitely see it in IMAX. For me, speaking only for myself, of course, I felt that it was 1000% worth that experience. So now we'll transition into some of the more mild spoilers, so set pieces and some differences from the book without getting into the ending. So one of the reveals that Paul gets is that he is a descendant of the Harkonnens. He is Leto Atreides' son, but Jessica is actually the daughter of the Harkonnen Baron. And I remember this being a departure from the book, because in the book, he does find out, and I think it's probably better if I talk about the movie version first. So in the movie, he finds out, and then he tells Jessica, he's like, "Did you know, Mom?" And she tells him, "I didn't. However, like, when I did the, like, when I took the water of life, that was when I learned the truth." But you don't really, like, you see her drink the water of life, but you don't really see her reaction to that information. In the book, Paul learns it first. I think it's before they actually get taken by the Fremen. I might be a little wrong about that. And he tells her, he's like, "Do you want to know what I just learned, Mom? Like, do you want to know what I learned about my lineage? We're Harkonnens. You are his daughter." And Jessica breaks. She weeps because she realized, like, I share the blood of the man who killed the Duke, my Duke. And it's one of those moments where, like, again, like, Jessica's an absolute badass. Like, if this was Game of Thrones, she's playing the Game of Thrones. She's playing it for her son so her son can win. But that humanity, I think, is what makes her super interesting to me. And it's not like I'm like, wow, you guys absolutely fucked up by not including that. But it's a moment that I really liked. I was a bit disappointed not to see it included. There's definitely a few things like that. I can't remember his name, but he's the Mentat. I think it's Hawa. It's like Thurfer Hawa. It's something like that. His part in the second half of the book is completely cut. Because in the novel, he does survive the massacre of the Atreides family that happened in part one of the first movie. And he gets this arc where he's working with the Harkonnens because he's like, I mean, like, I don't really know what else to do, and I'm hoping that I can get more information from them. I can maybe bring them down on the inside when, I don't know if you hear the dog, I think we've got some family coming over. Like when Fade Rotha is in the Colosseum, pin in that, I love that shit. I believe it was Hawat specifically that arranged for the, for one of the combatants not to be drugged to actually give Fade Rotha, like, a fight. I don't 100% remember what happened to him by the end of the book, but a part I really remember, it might have been Gurney this happened with, and they just cut it from the movie, but I think it was Hawat, is when he rejoins Paul and he meets up with him and he sees Jessica, he tries to kill her. Because in the book, I don't remember if this was in part one of the movie, Leto pretends that he suspects Jessica of being the Harkonnen spy. And the reason he does is he's like, and he tells Paul, he's like, "Paul, someone needs to know the truth. I trust your mother more than I trust myself. I love her. I do not believe for a second that she would ever work for the Harkonnens. But what I am hoping is that whoever the traitor actually is will see me distrust Jessica and blaming Jessica. And the traitor will then let down their guard and slip up, and then I can find them. But you can't tell your mother, if something happens to me, someone needs to know that I believed in her. Tell your mother then. Until that time, your mother can't know, because if she knows that I don't really suspect her, I feel like the illusion that I'm going for is not going to work. And when Paul does tell Jessica, it's like, no, Mom, he never doubted you for a fucking second. It's another one of those moments where you really see Jessica's humanity come through. There's a scene also in the book between Jessica and Hawad where he's like, I don't fucking trust you, you're a piece of shit, and she's like using the voice to like sit him down and blah blah blah. Like, I remember, it's a really intense scene, it's great. So when he sees her, and I also think the Baron specifically tells Hawad, he's like, yeah, it was Jessica. I mean, it wasn't, but why would I tell him the truth? He's an Atreides. Like, I love the Baron in the book. Like, I think he's done fine in the movie, but in the book, you really see how fucking evil and devious and just slimy he is. And, like, genuinely, I think he's one of the more interesting characters. So when Hawa meets Jessica, he's like, you are the one who did it. Like, I never trusted you. I never had a reason to. And you are the one who did it. And, you know, Paul's able to step between and be like, hey, stop. But I still really liked that. It's not here. Hawa's completely cut from this movie. I think it's sad. Are you really missing much in the grand narrative of the book? Like, no. But it is shit that I liked. I'm kind of sad to not see it here, but I think I get it. It's a 3-hour movie anyways. Take the pin out of the wall. The shit in the Coliseum is so cool. It's so fun. The guy playing Fade Rotha is having a blast. One thing, though, again, another deviation from the book, and one of those things I really liked, is in the book, they really play up how much of a showman Fade Rotha is. Like, he talks about how, I think he has these 2 different knives, and one is longer than the other, and one is specifically a poisoned blade, and the crowd knows which one is the poisoned blade, so specifically, he switched them. He's like, everyone, I don't remember if it was like the long one or the short one. He's like, everyone knows the long one is poisoned, so instead I poisoned the short one and the long one is normal. And I'm going to kind of put that into how I fight. So there's going to be a point where, you know, someone gets a poison blade and uses it against me and they're going to freak out, but it's okay. And I think like in his like duel with Paul at the end, he kind of is using the same trick to, you know, like be underhanded. I'm like, this is super interesting. And you get the perspective of like the Bene Gesserit woman that he does sleep with, and her talking to Baron Vladimir and this other dude who's completely not in the movie. And I remember that dude, because I remember in the climax, Paul is like talking mad shit because he's scared of nobody, except that guy. And I don't remember his name. I don't know if I ever learned his name, but Paul's just like, if this dude tries anything, I think I'm dead. And I'm genuinely terrified of that happening. Please let that not happen. But like, I still think like the part in the Coliseum is very fun. Again, I really like the aesthetic of the Coliseum. One difference, okay, a really big difference is the timeline. Because the movie all takes place within like a few months. Like everything happens within a year. In the book, it's several years. Like Paul and Chani have a son. The son, I don't remember how old the son was, but like the son is able to do shit, and then there's a point in the book where the son dies, and I remember that having an impact on Paul. Like, you would imagine it fucking would, and that just doesn't happen in the book. Aaliyah, which is the name of Jessica's daughter, she, as a result of the timeline thing, isn't born. It's just she's talking to the fetus in her belly, and I remember I was talking to N7, he's like, I don't know how they're going to adapt Aaliyah. Because what Aaliyah is, like, she is a girl, like, she looks like a normal child, but she speaks with an adult voice, she has an adult eloquence, vocabulary, and to the point where it just freaks other people out. And again, it's one of those things from the book, I'm like, I loved this. And again, it's also one of those bits of Jessica's humanity, where she is genuinely worried about her daughter, like her daughter's happiness amongst the Fremen, with everyone thinking of her as this abomination, but also, is my child safe? But also, am I safe from my child? Because I have so many questions, and like, I think it's super interesting. And there's this scene near the end of the book with Aaliyah talking to Grandpa Harkonnen, and it's a scene I really liked, and it's just not there, and I'm like, I get it. it's a weird thing to adapt. You had the whole rest of the story to tell, and it was 3 hours, but I could have used. And I want to put it like this. It's not like, man, I feel like there was so much missing. Because if I had not read the books, I wouldn't have felt any of this. But having read the book, I'm like, there's a lot of these things here and there. I'm like, I loved that, and I loved that. I get why they're cut. I'm a little sad that they were cut. I would not have minded another hour and a half to see some of this shit. I really wouldn't have, because it was great. I feel like watching the movie, like I said, it made me appreciate how good the story and the characters really are. Part of it was, I'm like, yeah, this shit is really interesting. But I'm also realizing, yeah, a lot of the moments that didn't make it in are moments that really resonated with me for one reason or another. And a lot of them are character reasons. And I am kind of sad to see them go. The worm riding scene is fucking awesome. I remember there was a point in the movie where I'm like, I kind of need to go up and go to the bathroom. Oh, but they're about to do, like, the Coliseum. I gotta watch the Coliseum. Like, all right, they're gonna do this scene. I gotta watch this scene. And one of those was the worm riding. I'm like, I'm going nowhere. I can't wait to see this in IMAX. And it looked so fucking sick. Oh, it was great. It was amazing. I loved it. Were there any other things that, differences that I wrote down? I think those are really the differences that I wrote down, aside from, like, one more. The other thing I want to bring up in mild spoilers, this is definitely, like, this is a plot point from the book, and it's kind of one of my favorite elements from the book. And I feel like I've said that about a lot of things in Dune, because it turns out I really, really loved the book. Is, Paul's trepidation. Now, part of that is, you know, he has this vision of this great holy war. He does several times refer to it as a jihad. And how he feels that all of this happens because of me. And I believe there's a part at the end of the book, and this part isn't in the movie, I think that's okay, where he's kind of saying to himself, if I die right here and now, my vision will come to pass either way. Because either I will be the emperor, I will be in charge, and this holy war will happen because of me and my followers for generations, or I die, but if I die here, I die a martyr. And if I'm a martyr, my followers will maybe be even more compelled to fight in my name. I am at a point where no matter what I do, my vision comes to pass. But the thing I loved is how, like, one of his fears is also, I don't want to lose my friends. Not in just the sense of, you know, I don't want my friends to die, but I think he refers to Stigler in this way, and Stigler is so entertaining in the movie, it's so good. He's like, he has turned from a friend into a worshiper. Like, I have lost my friendship and my companionship with this person because now he just reveres me as a messiah. And I just found that super interesting. So now we'll transition into the full spoilers, where I could talk about the ending. So yeah, the climax is fucking awesome. You know, it's this big thing. Like, there's a lot of, like, cool shit that happens, but for me, like, there's one part of this I care about. And that's watching the duel between Paul and Fade Routha, because I loved it in the book. I thought it was super cool, and in the movie it's super cool. Like I said earlier, there's no music. It's just, like, the sounds of them throwing hands, and, like, them, like, you know, their grunts, and them getting into it. Like, this is just so cool. This is phenomenal. Like, there's a part of me that's like, I kind of want to go watch the movie again, like, because the movie's great, but I'm like, I kind of want to watch the movie again, like, just for this scene. And, you know, the worm writing, because it's phenomenal. I loved it. I thought it was great. There is a very, very notable departure from the book at the end of the film. And it's something that's kind of built up throughout the film. Because a lot of the things I mentioned, I'm like, yeah, this is something that, you know, they kind of cut this, and I missed it, but I think it still works. Or they cut this, and I missed that too, but it still kind of works. they significantly changed Chani. In the book, Chani is, once she and Paul become a thing, she is very devoted to him. And not just in, like, I love you so much, but, like, she's very supportive. Of, like, okay, you are Muad'Dib, you are Usul, you are going to be our Messiah, you are going to liberate us. Like, she believes in him the way that other people do. And at least as far as I remember. But the thing that is very different, like, the thing that's really stuck out to me, in the book, Paul lets her know, I am going to marry the Emperor's daughter, and she is going to become my Empress and my wife. The reason I am doing that is because of the status that gives me. Like, I am marrying into the royal family, and so everything is Gucci, like, from that perspective. It legitimizes my reign, because he ends up becoming the Emperor. Do not mistake for a second that I love you. She is my wife in name only. You are the one that I love. You are the one I'm going to spend my time with. You are the one I want to have children with. She is a title. You are the love of my life. And Chani's response to this, for all intents and purposes, is, bet, sounds fine to me. Which is a very good, is like comparison to Jessica, because Jessica had the same relationship with Leto. This is the person that, like, they love each other. She is, for all intents and purposes, his wife. They love each other. They spend a lot of time together. He trusts her. She's an advisor, not just as the Bene Gesserit, but as the love of his life. They have a child together. They just never married because he wanted to always have that option open. It's like, if I need a political marriage, I need to be able to have that political marriage, and I can't do that if I'm married to her. But I love her as if she were my wife, and I treat her and hold her out as if she were my wife. And it was always something for Jessica, again, like her humanity. It's like, I get it. I wish I could have been his wife in name as well. But I know I was his wife in action, and it's enough for me. And the final line of the book comes from Jessica, and she's talking to Chani, and I don't remember exactly what it is, but it's something along the lines of, history will remember us. Not just the men who did all this important stuff, and not just their wives, but, like, the concubines. Which is kind of an interesting way to end the book. Like, when you think of it like that, it's like, yeah, the concubines are the ones that rule the world, but I like this sentiment a lot. It's, we are just as important and just as influential as the official wives or the men that do things, because we get a lot done too, and they wouldn't be where these important people would not be where they are without their support systems. And I like that a lot. In the book, in the film, Chani is a lot more hesitant about Paul really becoming the Messiah, and it feels like she's like, I love you, but I don't know about this, and I don't know about this. And at the end, when he's like, yeah, like, I'm going to marry her because, that's the title, Chani just gets super pissed, and the movie actually ends with her, like, storming out of the meeting chamber and calling a worm to ride so she can get away from Paul. And I'm like, that is, like, the exact, like, tonally speaking, that is the exact opposite ending to the book. That's interesting. Now, I have not yet read Dune Messiah. I actually got it as a Christmas present last year. Like, I want to read it at some point this year. I don't know when. It makes me go, I haven't read it yet, so I don't know how much that fucks up Dune Messiah. And, like, I was already looking forward to reading it, but now I'm like, I'm gonna be reading the book, and there's gonna be that voice in the back of my mind either going, okay, I can see where because from my understanding, like, the director also wants to do Dune Messiah, and I guess some of the other books, is that, okay, this is how, with the way they wrote Chani at the end of the film, this is how they can adapt Dune Messiah. Or there'll be that voice at the end, back in my head, going, how the fuck are they gonna do this now? This is completely different. But I don't know, and it's something that excites me a little bit. It's just that pure unknown of how the book is gonna go, and then how are they gonna do it with the movie. But I thought the movie was great. I very clearly did. There's a lot of differences. There's a lot of things that didn't make it in, and you can definitely tell I miss some of those, and I would have loved to have seen them. But overall, Dune Part 2 is, whether you have read the book or no, I would recommend watching the first film. If you have the chance to watch this in IMAX, please take it.